The world never plays fair. No matter how honest you are, someone will betray you. No matter how hard you work, someone less deserving will get the promotion. And no matter how much you give, someone will take it as weakness, not generosity. This isn't pessimism. This is reality stripped of fairy tales. Those who understand this reality, they survive. And those who survive, they rule. Not because they're cruel, but because they stopped expecting fairness and started mastering the game as it actually is. I call this loyalty through fire, a form of dark intelligence that doesn't chase loyalty, but reveals it. It's the kind of intelligence that lets tension rise, allows chaos to simmer, and watches, quietly, who stays when everything falls apart. You don't test people with favors. You test them with friction. You don't find your true allies in calm waters. You find them in the storm you deliberately didn't calm. But before we dive deep, let me be crystal clear. This isn't about creating chaos for chaos' sake. This isn't about manipulation to destroy. This is about strategic vulnerability, engineered uncertainty, to separate the loyal from the opportunistic. You're not burning bridges. You're lighting torches to see who walks across with you. Over the next 40 minutes, you'll learn how to stop begging for loyalty and start commanding it through calculated exposure. You'll discover how to let things get messy, not out of recklessness, but precision, so you can finally see who stands with you when the masks fall off. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose clarity over comfort. Now let's unlock the secrets of loyalty through fire. You don't need to manufacture drama, but you must stop smoothing every wrinkle. Controlled chaos means allowing minor instability to reveal major truths. It's the deliberate refusal to fix what doesn't need fixing, just to see who panics, who abandons ship, and who rolls up their sleeves. Machiavelli once said, "A wise ruler ought never to keep faith, when by doing so it would be against his interest." He wasn't advocating betrayal. He was exposing the myth of blind trust. In a world where loyalty is currency, you must verify its authenticity before spending it. Here's what happens in most relationships. You overcompensate. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. You mediate conflicts that should be allowed to breathe. You silence your doubts to keep the peace. But peace built on avoidance is fragile. Real loyalty isn't proven when everything's perfect. It's proven when things go sideways and someone still chooses you. Think about your last team project. When deadlines loomed and stress spiked, who doubled down? Who vanished with vague excuses? That wasn't about workload. It was about allegiance. Or consider your closest friendship. When you went through a breakup or job loss, who showed up without being asked? Who only reappeared when you were back on top? Controlled chaos isn't about creating suffering. It's about removing the filters that hide people's true priorities. Most people rush to restore order the moment discomfort arises. They soothe, placate, and over-explain to avoid tension. Instead, you pause. You let the silence hang. You say, "I'm not sure how this will work out," and watch who leans in versus who leans out. Notice the difference. One seeks control through calm. The other seeks truth through turbulence. This doesn't mean you become erratic or emotionally volatile. The key principle here is intentional imperfection. In your career, you might delay responding to a non-urgent email to see who follows up with genuine concern versus who assumes you've dropped the ball. In your personal life, you might share a minor struggle, "I'm feeling overwhelmed," and observe who offers support versus who changes the subject. What happens when you master this? You stop wasting energy on fair weather allies. You build a core circle forged in real conditions, not curated illusions. You gain the rarest form of social capital. People who've seen you at your most uncertain and still chose to stand beside you. Never engineer chaos to punish or trap others. This isn't about setting traps. It's about removing illusions. Remember, loyalty revealed in calm is a guess. Loyalty revealed in chaos is a fact. You don't hide your struggles. You reveal them selectively. Deliberate vulnerability is the art of showing just enough weakness to test strength in others. It's not confession. It's calibration. You expose a crack not to collapse, but to see who tries to seal it. Machiavelli once said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." But here's what modern interpreters miss: fear isn't the goal. Respect through unpredictability is. And sometimes, the most unpredictable move is showing fragility when everyone expects armor. Let me explain. Most people equate vulnerability with weakness. So they armor up. They post highlight reels. They say, "I'm fine," when they're drowning. But that doesn't protect you, it isolates you. True power lies in choosing when and to whom you show your uncertainty. Imagine you're leading a startup. Instead of pretending everything's perfect in your weekly meeting, you say, "We're behind on funding, and I'm rethinking our Q3 strategy. I need your honest input." Watch closely who offers creative solutions, who quietly updates their LinkedIn. That single sentence filters your team more effectively than any performance review. Or in a romantic relationship, instead of hiding your anxiety about the future, you say, "I've been feeling insecure about where we're headed." The right partner leans in. The wrong one uses it as leverage or disappears. Most people either overshare to everyone or shut down completely. They swing between emotional dumping and emotional lockdown. Instead, you share with surgical precision, only with those who've earned the right to see your unguarded side. You test depth before diving. This doesn't mean you parade your pain for attention. The key principle here is vulnerability as a probe, not a plea. At work, you might admit a knowledge gap. "I've never handled a merger like this." To see who steps up as a collaborator versus who sees an opening to undermine you. In family dynamics, you might say, "I'm struggling with Dad's illness." And notice who offers practical help versus who offers empty platitudes, then changes the subject. What happens when you master this? You stop attracting emotional vampires. You attract allies who see your humanity not as a flaw, but as a signal of trust. And that trust becomes reciprocal, because you've proven you can handle theirs. Never confuse vulnerability with helplessness. You reveal uncertainty to test loyalty, not to surrender power. Remember, the strongest bonds are forged not in perfection, but in shared imperfection. You don't rush to fix every problem, especially other people's. Non-intervention is the discipline of watching a minor crisis unfold without stepping in, so you can see who acts when you're not directing the play. It's not indifference. It's intelligence gathering. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." But the truly wise man also knows when not to act, because action can mask truth. By holding back, you create space for others' instincts to surface. Here's how it works. Most leaders, and most friends, feel compelled to solve everything. If a colleague misses a deadline, you cover for them. If a friend complains about their partner, you give advice. But every time you intervene, you rob yourself of data. Let's say 2 team members are clashing over a project. Instead of mediating immediately, you say, "I trust you two to work it out. Keep me posted." What happens? One might escalate unprofessionally, the other might seek compromise. Their natural behavior, unfiltered by your presence, reveals their character. Or imagine your sibling is having money trouble. Instead of offering a loan right away, you say, "That sounds tough. What's your plan?" Their response tells you everything. Do they take responsibility, or do they expect rescue? Non-intervention isn't coldness. It's respect for others' agency and your own need for clarity. Most people intervene out of guilt, ego, or anxiety. They can't tolerate tension, so they smother it before it reveals anything useful. Instead, you let small fires burn to see who brings water and who fans the flames. This doesn't mean you abandon people in real crisis. The key principle here is distinguishing between emergency and opportunity. In professional settings, if a junior employee makes a small error, don't correct it instantly. See if they catch it themselves or blame others. In friendships, if someone spreads a minor rumor about you, don't confront them immediately. Watch who defends you unprompted. What happens when you master this? You stop being everyone's crutch. You become a magnet for self-reliant, loyal people who don't need you to function, but choose to stand with you anyway. Never withhold help in genuine emergencies. This is about minor friction, not major suffering. Remember, silence isn't absence. It's the loudest mirror. You don't always show up, even when expected. Strategic withdrawal means temporarily stepping back from a role, relationship, or routine to see who notices, who compensates, and who celebrates your absence. It's not ghosting, it's auditing. Machiavelli once said, "Men are so simple of mind, and so much dominated by their immediate needs, that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived." But withdrawal isn't deceit. It's revelation. By removing yourself, you force others to reveal their true investment in you. Consider this. You've been the one organizing every family gathering for years. 1 month, you say, "I'm taking a break. Someone else should host." Who steps up? Who complains? Who doesn't even notice you're gone? That's your loyalty audit. Or in your workplace. You've always been the first to volunteer for extra tasks. For 1 quarter, you decline all non-essential requests. Watch who respects your boundaries and who suddenly acts like you've betrayed the team. Even in romance. After months of constant texting, you go quiet for 3 days without explanation. The secure partner checks in gently. The insecure one floods you with guilt or vanishes in retaliation. Withdrawal isn't punishment. It's a pressure test. Most people stay constantly available out of fear of being replaced, forgotten, or disliked. Instead, you create intentional absence to measure genuine presence. This doesn't mean you become unreliable. The key principle here is temporary, purposeful distance. In a business partnership, you might delay signing a minor contract to see if your partner pressures you or respects your timeline. In a friendship, you might skip a casual hangout and see who reaches out to reschedule versus who moves on instantly. What happens when you master this? You stop being taken for granted. You cultivate relationships where your presence is valued, not assumed, and you free yourself from the exhausting role of perpetual giver. Never withdraw to manipulate or punish. Do it to clarify, not to control. Remember, your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. You don't justify every decision. Unexplained behavior means acting in ways that seem inconsistent or mysterious. Not to confuse, but to observe who questions your motives and who trusts your judgment. It's not secrecy, it's selectivity. Machiavelli once said, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." Likewise, it's not explanations that earn respect, but the confidence to operate without them. When you stop over clarifying, you force others to reveal whether they trust your character or just your compliance. Think about it. Most people feel compelled to explain every shift in mood, plan, or priority. "Sorry I didn't text back. I was stressed. I changed my mind because... But every explanation is a bid for approval, and approval seekers attract users, not allies. Instead, imagine you cancel a meeting last minute with no reason beyond. Something came up. Watch who respects your autonomy and who demands an apology. Or you suddenly stop posting on social media for weeks. Who messages to check on you? Who assumes you've failed and moves on? Even in negotiations, if you walk away from a deal without elaboration, the right partners will ask how to earn your return. The wrong ones will badmouth you behind your back. Most people explain to avoid conflict or judgment. Instead, you act with quiet certainty and let your actions filter your circle. This doesn't mean you become erratic or disrespectful. The key principle here is clarity of intent, not transparency of process. In leadership, you might shift team priorities without detailing every reason, trusting your team to follow your vision. In personal life, you might decline an invitation with a simple, "Not this time," and see who accepts it versus who interrogates you. What happens when you master this? You stop performing for others' comfort. You attract people who value your judgment more than your justification. And you reclaim your time from endless emotional accounting. Never be unkind or dismissive. Withhold explanation, not respect, remember. Mystery isn't about hiding. It's about honoring your own sovereignty. You don't always meet expectations. You sometimes defy them to test loyalty. Reversing expectations means doing the opposite of what people predict you'll do, not to shock, but to see who sticks around when you're no longer predictable. It's not rebellion, it's recalibration. Machiavelli once said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." But to command respect, you must first prove you're not a puppet of others' assumptions. When you break pattern, you reveal who loves the real you, and who just loves the version they imagined. Here's how it plays out. You've always been the reliable one, the friend who never cancels, the employee who never says no. One day, you decline a favor you'd normally grant. The loyal friend says, "No worries, I get it." The fair weather one says, "Wow, since when did you become selfish?" Or you've been the peacemaker in your family. At the next argument, you stay neutral instead of mediating. Watch who respects your boundary and who accuses you of betrayal. Even in business, you've always undercharged to seem nice. You raise your rates significantly. The clients who value you stay. The ones who saw you as cheap labor leave. That's not loss, that's liberation. Most people conform to expectations to avoid rocking the boat. Instead, you occasionally capsize it, just enough to see who swims toward you. This doesn't mean you become inconsistent or unreliable. The key principle here is intentional deviation to test depth. In romance, if you're known as the easygoing partner, you firmly state a non-negotiable boundary. See who respects it versus who calls you changed. In leadership, if you're seen as soft, you make a tough, unpopular call. Observe who supports your growth and who prefers your stagnation. What happens when you master this? You stop being trapped in roles you never chose. You build relationships that love your evolution, not just your convenience. Never reverse expectations to hurt or confuse. Do it to shed illusions, not to create chaos. Remember, loyalty to the real you is worth more than admiration for the fake you. You don't react immediately to betrayal or disappointment. Silent observation means withholding your response to a slight failure or abandonment, not to punish, but to gather intelligence on who doubles down on loyalty and who scrambles to cover their tracks. It's not passivity, it's patience with purpose. Machiavelli once said, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves." One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Silent observation is your fox phase. Watching, listening, learning, before you decide whether to roar. Consider this: a close friend misses your birthday. Most people either explode in anger or pretend it didn't hurt. Instead, you say nothing. You wait. Do they apologize unprompted? Do they act like nothing happened? Do they overcompensate with gifts to ease their guilt? Their behavior after the silence tells you everything. Or at work, a colleague takes credit for your idea in a meeting. Instead of confronting them publicly, you stay quiet. Later, do they privately acknowledge you? Do they avoid you? Do they double down? Your silence forces them to reveal their conscience, or lack thereof. Most people react instantly, either with rage or denial, because they can't tolerate uncertainty. Instead, you let the moment breathe, and in that space, truth emerges. This doesn't mean you tolerate abuse. The key principle here is delayed response for maximum insight. In family dynamics, if a relative makes a passive-aggressive comment, don't defend yourself immediately. See if they backtrack or escalate. In friendships, if someone shares your secret, don't cut them off right away. Observe if they show remorse or justify it. What happens when you master this? You stop making emotional decisions based on first impressions. You respond from clarity, not reactivity. And you build a reputation as someone who sees everything, even what others think is hidden. Never use silence as a weapon of manipulation. Use it as a lens of truth. Remember, the quietest moments reveal the loudest truths. You don't give loyalty blindly. You match it. Loyalty reciprocity means calibrating your commitment to others based on the proof they've shown you, not the promises they've made. It's not transactional, it's truthful. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. So don't assume loyalty based on appearances. Demand evidence. And once proven, reward it fiercely, but never before." Here's the reality. Most people give their full loyalty up front. "I've got your back no matter what," and then feel devastated when it's not returned. But loyalty isn't a gift. It's a contract earned through action. Imagine you've supported a friend through 3 job losses. When you face your own crisis, they're too busy to talk. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a verdict. Your next move: scale back your investment. Not out of spite, but alignment. Or in business, you've referred clients to a partner for years. When you ask for one referral in return, they hesitate. That's data. Adjust accordingly. True reciprocity isn't tit for tat. It's energy matching. You pour into those who pour into you. Most people keep giving to takers out of guilt or hope. Instead, you let your loyalty flow only where it's mirrored. This doesn't mean you become cold or scorekeeping. The key principle here is proportional investment. In new relationships, you start with cautious trust, small favors, minor confidences, and increase as they prove worthy. In long-term bonds, you periodically audit. Have they shown up when it cost them something? What happens when you master this? You stop being drained by emotional freeloaders. You create balanced, resilient relationships where loyalty is mutual, not assumed. And you earn the deep respect of those who know your loyalty is rare, and therefore priceless. Never withdraw loyalty over minor slights. Reserve it for patterns, not moments. Remember, loyalty given freely is often wasted. Loyalty earned is never forgotten. You've just learned the 8 traits of loyalty through fire. But knowledge without application is worthless. It's just noise in your head, another self-help loop that changes nothing. So here's your action assignment. Pick one of these 8 principles. Just one. Practice it deliberately for 7 days. Don't try to master all at once. If you choose controlled chaos, let one small tension go unresolved this week and observe. If you choose strategic withdrawal, skip one expected interaction and see who notices. Track what happens. Write it down. This isn't theory, it's fieldwork. And now, the ethical reminder: use these insights to protect yourself, not to harm others. Machiavelli wasn't teaching cruelty. He was teaching survival in a world that rewards the perceptive and punishes the knave. The goal isn't to become a manipulator. It's to become unmanipulatable. To build a life surrounded by people who've proven their loyalty, not through words, but through fire. The world doesn't need more skimmers. It needs more sovereign individuals who can see clearly, act wisely, and stand firm with those who've earned the right to stand beside them. There are two types of people in this game: the manipulator and the unmanipulatable. The manipulator seeks power over others. The unmanipulatable seeks power over themselves. The power to see truth, set boundaries, and choose their circle with eyes wide open, not to gain control over others, but to gain freedom from illusion. Which kind of person do you choose to be? If this resonated, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this matters. Subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a strategy for navigating the real world. And in the comments, tell me which of the 8 principles will you practice this week. Be specific. Stay strategic. Stay ethical. Stay powerful.